you know it's a lie. You say it tastes good when you live on the line. The feeling great now, the night is falling. You say it tastes good when you live on the line. The feeling great now, the night is falling. You say it tastes good when you live on the line. The feeling great now, the night is falling. You say it tastes good when you live on the line. The feeling great now, the night is falling, 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 falling,
Hello, hello. Hi there, this is Lavonne. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh my goodness, thank you for that. We had a little technical error there.
It's just because my phone was on Wi-Fi. If your phone's on Wi-Fi, it doesn't allow it.
Oh, well, not an issue. Here you are. We figured it out. Thank you for joining us, Matt. I'm so happy to be catching up with you and all the wonderful things you've got going on. And it's been a few months since we talked. Thank you for being here, first of all.
Well, thank you for having me. It has been a few months. It's been probably 6 months or so.
Ooh, time flies. It really does. But I was happy to meet you just recently here in San Diego. You came to the first San Diego Heirloom Seed Swap. It was great to meet your family as well.
Yeah, that was really fun. Not only was it fun to have all the kids running around and being all crazy, but it was fun to spend time with like Joseph Simcox and get tons of seeds that are just like ridiculously rare.
Right.
And then it was fun to exchange like my garden varieties, with other people with garden varieties. And then it was awesome to meet people that who have been like connecting with online. We're all like connecting, and we're talking, and these events are these opportunities where we can take those online social experiences and make them real.
Exactly. It's amazing to see like something grow. It just turns into a friend on Facebook, and then it's a tangible person in front of you, and you're like, wow, you're real. Awesome. And here we are doing things together. And the seed swap was spectacular. It's always my favorite part of the food festival in Santa Rosa. So it was great to see that in my hometown, just to see that energy perpetuated.
That's awesome, because it all kind of grew out of a conversation Lisa Russell and I had at the Heirloom Expo, and we were talking about, and I was saying that we need to have seed swaps everywhere and have flash mob seed swaps and just take over areas and just set up and just do it, But
Right.
we decided something a little bit more tame, and Makeda offered her place, which was amazing. And it just became this wonderful, wonderful like event that had all these different facets to it. So, I mean, I had a wonderful time, and I think that it's just the beginning. I think we're going to see Heirloom Seed Swap Day, which is spring equinox, become a nationally recognized holiday by people, if not other people. If not like organizations or such. As long as it's people doing it, that's what matters.
Exactly. And I wanted to point out that that swapping seeds in California is, as was presented to us at the seed swap, is like a blatant um, revolutionary act against your government. As now, it's illegal. Did you hear that? That seed exchange, um, in other forms of non-commercial and seed sharing, have to be permitted in certain areas. Like, did you hear about that?
Yeah, those kind of laws that violate nature, laws like, oh, birds can't carry seed into other areas. It's like, you're kidding, right? Like, where's the chemicals that are like in your water and have infected your brain? Because we got to stop this and help you. Because you're crazy. You know what I mean? Like, these people are insane. And we've let them get into positions of power over our water, our food, and our government. And it's like, we just need to take back that power. And I feel like self-reliance, growing your own seed, starting the seed economy, especially this whole idea that we save seeds, we grow animals, we grow food, we are always working with an abundance mentality. We can barter because we always have enough, we always have plenty. It changes everything, and all that equity that we've let go, all that power that we've let go to the grocery store, to the USDA or the USDA, as like Saladin says, right? All
Mhm.
those like entities that have like control and say over our lives, our diets, and all these facets of who we are thwarting us from being humans and from expressing our full humanness. And I believe that us doing things for ourselves may have been, posited as like work. As a child, like, oh, you don't want to do work in the soil. It's like, that's just dirt,
Don't
and all
get
those kind of like,
dirty. You're gonna get sick
right,
if you
right,
get dirty.
right.
Oh
Dirt is
gosh,
bad. And now,
antibacterial. Quick, wash your hands. That's,
and yeah, and
yeah.
that leads to like so many like perversions. I was writing today about how, what was I writing about? I was writing about how like doing that with our hands is similar to like what we're doing with our food, what we're doing with our bodies. We've just created this sanitized situation where we don't race with nature. We're not land race living, you know what I mean? We're not constantly adapting to each season in each soil and building up our genetic responses, Instead we're creating predictable responses and then creating these superabundant responses.
It's
But we're
true.
doing that like intellectually too. I mean, deconstructionism, yeah, it's like it's half the equation. There's called constructionism too,
Hmm.
like having solutions. And college doesn't teach that. And they have no framework. And like that's why I started writing the permaculture student series, because I felt like until I had that framework to look at the world through, like that lens, I just had no real hope for what we could do with the soil and the planet. And yeah, growing organically and all those things are great, but they're not regenerative. And I think
Regenerative.
that's
There's
the
that
that's
magic
the
word.
key.
Exactly. And then
That's the key.
everyone's caught up on sustainable. Sustainable's great, but we can do so much more. And that's why I really like permaculture. I've been reading my book, and I've watched not as many videos as I like yet, but I want to just give people a little bit of background on you in case they missed our first show or they have no idea who Matt Powers is. Um,
Sure,
if I,
sure.
yeah, last time we spoke was the first time we talked, and you basically told me that you were uh, a school teacher, and you were just, not going with the flow. You kind of didn't identify with the way that you were kind of forced to teach kids. Am I right?
Yeah, basically my last year of teaching, the person that was, protecting me as a teacher and allowed me to do really kind of radical things as a teacher. And when I say radical, it's really just me empowering kids to make clear decisions about their life and clear decisions about the way life works.
Huh.
So I would just empower kids with the tools they need to make good decisions. And that's not what they wanted me to be teaching. They wanted like this Common Core thing. They didn't want outlining. And I mean, imagine trying to write an essay without an outline. I mean, it just boggles the mind. They said it wasn't explicitly in Common Core, so you
What?
don't want that. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really hard to
yeah.
write without an outline as a writer.
Yeah, how do you design a business? How do you design anything without an outline? I mean, they're really going after common sense now. I mean, I feel like permaculture is common sense that every Earth citizen, every Earth, being should have,
Mm-hmm.
and it's natural. It's just, well, that's the way water flows. That's what happens to air when it gets hot. All these things that are just normal. We've just kind of pulled out of school and then like created science classes in such a way where nothing sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have children and you have children and I know that you feel what I feel. We've got to do better for our kids in the crap that they're being fed at schools, in the TV, through the music industry, in most of the publications that are coming out, and in most of the science that we have coming out. I mean, the fact that we're like blaming the third world for global warming, like the rainforest destruction, it's a piece. It's a piece. Don't get me wrong, but the carbon creation really is. That's stable carbon. That tree that's been there for 200 years, it stopped growing. It does leaves and whatnot, but that's stable. But like all this other stuff that we're doing, like burning all these fossil fuels, like doing agriculture that actually releases carbon into the atmosphere. Because when you use the salts that are the chemical conventional fertilizers, the reason they work so well is they split the humus. They're taking the organic matter in the soil and they're cutting it with that salt to release all the different wonderful things that are supposed to be lasting there in the humus for 10,000 years. But they're releasing it so you get this huge explosion in 30 to 40 years, and then it's done. And in some places, it's only a year, like in certain places where the soil is really poor. So what we need to do is, and it's just common sense that if you understand the way carbon cycles work, that you'd be like, oh, no, we need to return everything to the ground.
Right.
And turn it back into soil because that traps the carbon.
Exactly.
And gives carbon back to the soil so that it can create more food, because carbon is a structure, right?
We want
to
add to our ecosystem, not take from it, which is what we've kind of been taught, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we're supposed to mine things according to the industrial model, and then you bring in evangelical like thinking, and it's like, well, the earth replenishes itself infinitely, and you have to take this Calvinistic point of view, and you like wrap it in our politics, and you're like, oh well, that's just the way things are. Some people are damned, some people aren't, and we have just a system, and we do the best we can, and that's all malarkey. I mean, the reality is the world is designed to be infinitely abundant. Life is designed to create more life infinitely.
You're right.
We're supposed to like be this greatest expression of life. Humans are supposed to be the ultimate seeds, the seed savers, the spreaders of seeds, the breeders of new plants. We're the ultimate expression. We're the caretakers, but we've been fed this whole other story, this whole war history. I mean, think about if history was taught from the perspective of seeds and food. These families.
Jingles, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It would be families. It'd be stories of families and discoveries and joyous occasions. And then we discovered that it makes the best pasta sauce, and it became the tomato that everyone now uses. You know what I mean? And it's like all these things have these stories that are, empowering. And I just believe that education has to be empowering for it to be useful to the children who are participating in it. And so I wrote my textbooks really as a way to give the information directly to the kids, because I wrote my books not as a teacher thing, but as and you've seen the course, I have it stepped out, but I don't say like elementary, middle school, and
Right.
high school.
Yeah,
I just say I have different cognitive levels, but I label it all funny. I think it's gardener, designer, and terraformer, because it's the planning or the experimentation, the planning, and the action. Anyway, I'm so glad that you're taking the course, my course, The Permaculture Student Online. And
me too. Now I have like this agenda, okay? Like before I wanted to grow food and feed everybody because I realized that food is infinite and food is free. And I want to teach people that. And I used to wonder, like, how am I going to do this? It's going to take so much maintenance if I seed bomb, like, all the empty lots in my neighborhood. Like, how am I going to do it? But now I feel so empowered because if I plant the right things, they'll take care of each other. And it'll kind of be like a self-sustaining little system. You know, it'll need some tending, right? But if you build like a proper foundation, essentially you can just kind of let nature do its thing. And it's giving me a lot of excitement because like now I realize like I could have gardens everywhere. I could grow forests like everywhere.
Everywhere. And not only that, in your area, they would just be lovely, and they would just come up, and they would last for thousands of years.
I know. So that's what I get excited about is like legacy via seed. And it was refreshing to come together as a people just a couple weeks ago and share seeds and share our travels and our efforts because there's so much life that goes into saving that seed alone, and to receive it is like such a rare treasure. You talk about Joseph Simcox, like he's somebody who kind of just like he was saying himself, he does things that people don't want to do because he feels so compelled that it is his mission in this earth. And I felt like everyone there was kind of on that same path. You know, they were doing the thing that they want to do. And what's cool about permaculture is that if you don't have to worry about where your food comes from, you could essentially do that thing that you are so in love with and that you want to do.
Absolutely. It's an empowerment framework. It allows you to take away costs and turn them into savings and then turn them into abundance, and you have a choice whether to share that or turn it into an income, you know, and then further open up your time to do whatever you want.
Because your time is the most valuable thing, I think. So I really like want to thank you for putting your time and effort into the permaculture student. I know that you're working on part 2, so give me an update with that. What's going on?
All right, so if you love the first volume, you're going to love the second one. It's more complicated. It's probably going to be 3 times as long, and it's going to combine the workbook, you know, aspects into it. But it's not going to replace the workbook. The workbook is going to be something that everyone can just use over and over again. The workbook utility is solid. And so I'm adding things to that, and I do repeat a couple things like composting, but I do it in a more detailed, more in-depth format. And the idea is that book that you have, the Permaculture Student 1, is an awesome academic reference, something that people can just quickly pull and get an awesome definition that is universal. But once we start applying those things, and then once we start looking at their application like large landscape repair, beyond the principles, there's people who have not only applied it, but have been doing it for years. So I have like Versaland with Grant Schultz, and I have examples like the List Plateau and Jeff Lawton's project in Jordan, Neil Speckman's work in Saudi Arabia. And so I mean, that's just the landscape section. I mean, there's invisible structures, which is the community, commerce, and politics section, which probably would be right up the alley of the anti-media crowd. And then there's urban permaculture. There's alternative energy. There's aquaculture. Fungi has its own chapter. Every climate has its own chapter. And so it's really in depth, but it's still written in the same format, not in format. It's still written in the same language that's understandable. So, yeah. And so, I mean, I'm actually speaking to Joseph Simcox. I have his horticultural solution in here. He feels that permaculturists need to start exploring the plants that he's finding, because he thinks that we're spending too much time spreading, these staples that are tired and, mostly Mediterranean transplants all over the world. And he's like, there's all these plants that are just in these locations, and why don't we use them? So it's pretty incredible how many people are helping out with this. This book, I mean, there was 500 people that worked with editing the last book. And this book we have, and this, it felt like I was managing classrooms again. But this version is being peer reviewed by a group of experts that everyone probably is familiar with, like rocket mass heater expert Erica Wisner and her husband Ernie Wisner, and Neil Speckman, of course, and Joe Simcox, of course, he's helping out with his section. And then Peter McCoy, the radical mycologist, he's also helping. And then I have all these people all over the world that are giving their input, because I want this book to be acceptable to everyone. And I also want people to feel like they've had a part of it, they've had a say, so that the final product includes all the complexity. Because, I mean, these things are super complex. I mean, just, the swale, like the idea of the swale versus, keyline ripping, those kind of things really aren't separate, but people argue about how they're separate things, or diversion drains and swales being separate. But you could have a swale that diverts water and soaks water at the same time, or diverts water in large rain events. You know what I mean? So there's all this complexity that I totally hope that I get across, so that with the first one, you get this introduction about like what's possible. We light that spark. And the second one, we're like, okay, these are examples of what people have done with those principles. Here are like, conditions to certain things. And then they know even more what's possible. Because, I mean, like, for instance, have you heard of a Stirling engine?
None, doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, it came out before the law of thermodynamics came out, so they weren't really thinking about thermodynamics, they just made it intuitively. And it's basically, okay, so, hot air, rises and expands.
Right.
Well, cold air does the opposite, and you could literally set up an engine using hot and cold air.
Ooh.
And you could use a well for the cold air, and you could use the sun for the hot air.
I want one of those. That sounds amazing.
Right, but like that's the thing, is like they did that because children were getting burned by steam explosions in mines, and so it makes sense that they would just try it without water. So it's like literally they were creating steam engines without water and just using hot air. So this kind of like common sense, like a child could like be like, well that's cool, let's go build one, and then you probably could build one. At least a working little model, It's not like with a team of guys build a big one. So, or like for instance, a Trump. This is technology again that precedes the industrial age. It's infinite energy. So, like let's say we have a mine shaft with water, like can drop down, like 100 feet. Well, as it falls, it's catching all this air in it, and if you have a bump in an underground passageway that's leading to a release area for that water, you can catch all that air and it becomes pressurized. And pressurized air turns turbines quite well, and it's very cold, so you can refrigerate things. So with just water falling in gravity and pressure, you can create infinite energy.
Mm.
So stuff like that, like we need to get children thinking about that as like young kids, and then in high school we need to just be like setting all these patterns, setting all these examples in front of them, and giving them the reins to test and experiment, and then gain confidence. Because that child that goes home and is like, hey, wait, we don't need to throw away plastic or throw away paper or cardboard anymore, or kitchen scraps. We're going to get some worms. We're going to get some inoculant. We no longer need to pay for that, and so they save money, and then suddenly they're making the soil, goes in the front, curbside garden, and they're growing food out of there. And what does that do for that kid? Both the fact that he's using education, perhaps with the kind of gratitude that he's never had before, right? What else does it do? It does a lot for their confidence. And not only that, it saves them money, their parents, their relationship with their community, relationship within their family. It all is enhanced by just them getting information that they deserve, that it was their birthright. Just like seed saving and seed exchanging is our birthright as human beings and Earth citizens and participants in the environment. So I'm really excited. I'm pumped.
I had an epiphany last night while watching The Matrix. You know that scene?
Okay.
You know that scene where Morpheus is like, we are being grown, like in there are factories where we're grown, we're so disconnected from ourselves. And I was like, that's the equivalent of our society today, essentially. Like when you're not involved in the direct connection to where your sustenance comes from, you're missing such a huge part of your being. Kind of like Neo wasn't using all of his power, essentially. Like, we're not using all of our power just to elaborate on what you said, like, when you give a child a gift to see how nature works, you're essentially teaching them about themselves, which is the most beautiful thing a person could know in this world, is how to relate to the world around them, be comfortable in their being, and what better way than to understand the world you live in.
Absolutely. That was really beautifully said. I don't think I could have said that better. That was great.
Well, we'll have it on record. We can listen to it later because I have no idea. It just flows out. But I mean that though. I really do.
Yeah, I feel like we're at this cusp moment where, it's like, how many generations have read 1984 and Brave New World? It's like there's been like so many classrooms we've read that, and it's like our generation is the one to realize, to see, to recognize, and we almost can't we're almost halfway in both worlds, and our children that we're like liberating and raising sheltered from that world are going to be free, and it's going to be amazing.
And I think that's why a lot of people in our generation suffer, is because we are on that cusp, and it's like a two paradigms almost, and it's hard to be in between two different types of worlds. But
it's a great responsibility.
It's worth it. It's so worth it. And that's why we do this, and we do what we do, and we're so happy to be on UCY. I don't give enough love to them. It's a great network of people, and it just connects, like you were saying, your books connecting people all over the world, and people everywhere are, well, not all of us, but a lot of us are getting together. Like, about imaginal cells, Matt, how butterflies work?
Well, specifically?
Well, just like in general, like they're imaginal cells. What they are is they're what is to be when the caterpillar is evolving, essentially, and they start off as like one, and then another one, and there's only a few of them, maybe let's say like 10, okay? And what happens is those little tiny cells send out their vibes, and all the cells feel each other, and they gather. And what happens is they all kind of realize, like, whoa, there's other me's in the world. And then that's when the metamorphosis happens. And I love that I love that metaphor to compare to people like you and I. Like we're like little imaginal cells, and we've been trying to find each other, but magic's happening as a result, and it's really great for me to have a tangible. I keep using that word, but it's true. It's like you can touch it now. It's awesome.
Yeah, and your backyard is going to be incredible.
Mm. I'm actually decided that I need more space, Matt. I'm gonna move. I swear it's gonna happen because
Okay, do it.
I don't have enough freedom there. And after, like I said, like I was content with like 20 garden boxes. Now I'm like, I need a forest.
Yeah, yeah, don't stop. Keep going. I love it.
So that's what you're doing for people. So high five. Psh. Um, I want to spend a lot of time, or at least a good chunk here, if we can kind of segue into telling people how they can support you. You've got a current Kickstarter going. How much time do you have left? How do they find it? Um, Give people some goods on that, please.
All right. So our Kickstarter is on its fourth day. We have 101 backers. We need more backers.
Mm-hmm.
We are already past the 50% marker, which is really exciting.
Oh my gosh!
We,
Yeah, congrats.
I know, right? It's incredible. We have this amazing, amazing crew of
I didn't
backers.
realize it was only 4 days. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, so we have 26 days left, and I'm going to spill the beans.
Oh,
We're planning on doing crazy stretch goals. So,
like.
folks, we've got a $12,000 goal, but we've got other things in our back pocket. Like, for instance, my wife and I want to do an audiobook
Ooh.
on our family and on us finding permaculture and on us, finding each other and really our family and our relationship story, which really is kind of wild. It started with me playing bass with my teeth on stage and her roommate intercepting me as I was leaving the stage to greet me amorously. And then later that week, I met her and then did the Seinfeldian roommate switch.
Oh.
Needless to say, I was married 6 months later. But there's a whole lot of. I got her to quit her job. I got her. It was awesome. I got her to play bass. She started playing bass. A week later, I got her to do CBGB Saturday night, like headlining with my band. So yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a wild ride. And
oh man, there's a word for that. Keep going.
Okay, all right. And so we want to tell our story, want to share our story, because everyone kind of remarks upon it. I was in a band with Rachel Ray's husband, John Cusimano, for 7 years, playing with, Saturday Night Live's house drummer. I've shared the stage and played with and jammed with people like ZZ Top's Billy Gibbons and Blondie's keyboardist, Matt Catsbone is a close friend of mine. I've done projects with him. So it just, there's all this interesting things. My wife grew up in 23 different countries before coming to America. And so it's just things, just fun stories that we want to share, and that it would be one of the first permaculture audiobooks on Audible, which is also another kind of fun goal for us collectively. And then there is another stretch goal that is even further out, that I will only spill here, but I won't tell anyone else yet online. But I want to do a visual pamphlet for elementary schools and classrooms so that they have a permaculture in school gardens pamphlet. So all the urban areas, all the small, garden raised bed kind of plots where they're like, well, how can we make this permaculture, I want to give them something that they have that's visual and tangible. That word again.
Yeah.
So that they can use it, And so I know I'm talking high school. I've got lesson plans in it that are all ages as an early reward. But I want to do it. I'm doing a K through 12 series, and this is just one section of the high school, and it can be used for any adult and anyone who enjoyed the course before. But at the same time, I'm trying to reach broader audiences. And this is also down the road, and this is sort of top secret. But a Disney animator, illustrator, coloring expert is working with me on a book called The Forgotten Food Forest, and it's for elementary schools, and it's about an actual 3,000-year-old food forest in Morocco in the desert.
So many chills right now. That's wonderful. Seriously, all of those things are making me so happy.
Oh, I'm so glad. So I'm like, we've got some crazy things that are coming up that are like super exciting, that are going to just explode. And the amazing thing about the whole thing with the Forgotten Food Forest is she's an animator. And so we could just flip right, if we have the budget, we just flip right into turning into the first permaculture movie.
Oh my gosh. And I wanted to comment on the animation already. Visually, your book is gorgeous. And I love the clarification of words and the word clearing. So it appeals to people of all ages and type and learning ability, because people get really overwhelmed with language, especially in this day of age, and everyone's used to their texting and all that. So I've been reading it with my 8-year-old. So it doesn't overwhelm him, because I'm like, look, there's the definition. This word's bolded. It's not a big deal. We're going to figure out what it means, So just visually, it's beautiful, and I really enjoy it. So how exciting! You got a Disney animator now. My mind's boggled, Matt. So cool.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, the story itself is really fun. It's about two brothers who get separated from their family in a sandstorm, and they end up in this food forest, which existed at a time when this could have happened. So it's historical fiction. Mm-hmm. And they're saved by the food in the food forest, but there's not alone, because there's the Barbary lion still exists, and it's actually the national animal for Morocco. So, and it's extinct, you know what I mean? So it means a lot, I'm trying to stack the functions and communicate to kids on many different levels. And so far, I mean, it's been incredible. We had Russia. I had an email from Russia the other day. This family in Russia is doing an online course in Russian and for permaculture, and they want to use my books for the kids. And then in India, right? Isn't that incredible? And then in India, they're using it for an entire academy, an entire school in West Bengal.
How exciting!
So I know, right?
I was gonna mention, I saw this picture of you sending out a billion books. Where did they go? So, wow. So are you okay? Oh my gosh. My mind's so I'm overwhelmed with joy, dude. It's blowing up, if I must say. And that's what you want, though.
Yeah, I feel that.
You want that. You want people to get excited about existing and loving themselves. And it's kind of a rarity nowadays for many reasons, like we've talked about. And it really is going to be revolutionary. And I hope we get to see it in our lifetimes, because it doesn't take very long for a seed to sprout, does it?
No, and I think that right now we're sharing seeds with the information we're sharing, with the words, with the feelings that we're spreading, with the shows that we're putting on together, with the events we go to. These are all seeds, and there's going to come a time when it's going to explode, because really we're creating the gardens in which our children are going to grow up in, and that's social, that's economic, that's everything. It's these gardens that we want. I say this routinely. Economy is simply a game that we are agreeing upon. Government is simply a social game we're agreeing upon.
It's true.
And all of it can change.
Yeah, it can. Especially because most of Congress is up for election or whatever they call it. But we should just get rid of all of them, and we should just put a bunch of seed traders and farmers and old ladies in there. I want grandmas for Congress.
I love that.
Grandmas for Congress. I want toddlers, grandmas. Like I want a panel of like a panel of my peers, like a jury, but Congress.
Wow.
Getting another call, Matt. Let's see who wants to talk to us. Okay, here we go.
Okay, yeah.
Hi there. Thanks for being on the Antimedia Radio. What's your name?
Can you hear me?
I can definitely hear you. Who is thee?
Hey, Lavonne. Hey, Doctor. How you doing, guys?
Oh, hi.
Hey.
Is this Al?
Yeah, it's me. Don't
Hi.
worry. So wait another. What?
Thanks for calling in. Matt Powers is on with us talking about permaculture.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Well, but I'd like to pretty much before I get into that too much and saving seeds, which I know it's important. Pretty much considering that I used to be an instructional assistant, pretty much how can we adapt pretty much in a modern era, which basically the public school system is basically like the dying canary in a barren gold mine per se.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Is that it? Is that your question?
Well, at least the first one for starters.
Okay, good. All right. So they are dying, and they know it. They really do. They're desperate. The teachers are all leaving. 5 years ago, we didn't pay for health insurance. Now it's $850 a month. So,
Sorry.
yeah, and every year you'd make less money. It's crazy what they're doing.
That's like 2/3 of a rent like living cost. That's outrageous. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and to school teachers. So you're absolutely right, sir. We have a situation here where schools are not just failing kids, they're a failing entity in itself. So what's going on is there's a huge demand for answers. So you have teachers, you have administrators, and like principals, right, who care. And they do have a budget because they have kids coming into the room and you get $100 a day per head, the ADA money, right? That's why they want kids there, truancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they got a budget, and they got to keep kids in the school because everyone's dropping out, right? Everyone's homeschooling. This is real. So what's going on is they're like, okay, what gimmicks can we do? What can we do? And right now, simultaneously, we have school garden grants pouring out into our state, into our federal. So they're creating all these school gardens because they're thinking gimmick, right? And that's fine. They can think gimmick for now. But they put these gardens in, and then they expect one of the teachers to take it over. And the teachers are already stretched so thin, they're like, ha, 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 very funny. And so what happens is you have to get a volunteer. And so one of the parents is volunteering, or one of the local, like, young people, like a 20-something who's got a side business that relates to gardening, kind of, and they volunteer. What happens there is they need curriculum. And so they go to the school and say, I have nothing to teach. School's like, oh, what are we going to do? They're like, what do we need? And they come to me. And literally they are finding me. I'm not calling people. And they're searching everywhere for solutions. They're going to conferences. I was teaching teachers for years and telling them to stop doing homework because it lowers scores. And you know what I mean? And so I have seen teachers, they're desperate. Principals are desperate because they see the writing on the wall. The kids are all not showing up either mentally or not at all. And the atmosphere is one of desperation, fear, scarcity, because, I mean, all the kids feel like if they don't get an A, they're not going to go to college, they're never going to get enough food to eat, and no one will marry them, you know what I mean? So you're absolutely right that we're at a critical moment. I do think that the problem is the solution here, though, and that this desperation just turns into the opportunity for them to willingly and with gratitude turn to correct principles to follow. Does that help answer your question?
Pretty much. Well, I guess I suppose I guess I will have to start from the school board level. So pretty much, so they would finally be able to adapt, or basically just stick with the same old, and eventually die out per se. Well, not really die out. Well, pretty much. Well, I guess what I really meant to ask for since even though we're pretty much the information's flowing out, pretty much different viewpoints are being exposed, that's good. But unfortunately, we're just preaching to the choir. Whether people that don't know about this new information or people who lack resources, even if they have like 2 hours a day to go to the library and research on the internet, well, pretty much, like I guess I could say, we gotta be able to adapt to pretty much reach outside of our own box. Plus, obviously, well, I guess you get the main idea in what I previously said.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's why it really kind of starts with kindergarten, because when you get like juniors and seniors in high school, if they're not doing well in school, they're probably already checked out mentally or not. So that's why I work with my online program with school districts and elementary schools, and what they're doing is, those kids are being able to go home and understand that their paper waste can turn into an asset, that their kitchen scraps can turn into, compost. So they have all these basic principles that they can apply to start saving money to actually do all that kind of stuff, get their parents more time, get themselves more time with their family. And it all kind of, like you said, those parents don't have time, but the kids are trapped in school. And so we've got this like one-size-fits-all, force-fed model. So, and the teachers totally understand what's going on because they're being pressed from above. If you don't make a certain quota with your grades, you are put under questioning. So, the reality is that we need to start with kids because kids have this free time. The adults don't have the free time. And that's exactly why I'm focusing on teaching kids in schools and not teaching adults. I don't teach PDCs. Instead, I'm going beyond the PDC and I'm teaching kids so the PDCs, when those kids graduate, they can be super advanced. They can be like college courses or something like that, or grad school, rather than just introducing permaculture. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Pretty much. Well, I guess to start would be pretty much, if you're able to do so, and if we're probably like, why not start in San Isidro? It's about a year ago, the teachers got off quite a notable teacher strike because they weren't getting paid enough. They've been victims of institutional racism, lack of resources. But the school board has gone to pretty much leaps and bounds to beg the billionaires to help them out. About 2 weeks ago, this green millionaire Tom Steyer that pretty much came to some sort of like a mini assembly at the local middle school about fruits and vegetables. I don't really know the main 411. I'll have to check with the school board member Antonio Martinez for more details. But pretty much, I guess the one other thing, pretty much, not just compost and seed saving and being able to adapt, but pretty much also adapting in the cyber. So pretty much, let me see. Well, I know that pretty much parents are depending on having school to being their primary babysitter, because I know that due to their schedule, they're unwilling to adapt to pretty much from a K through 12 perspective to a homeschool internet perspective. Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny. You're like setting things up, and we're playing t-ball here. I actually worked at a school that was laptop based, and I created my own curriculum every day. And so that's why I was actually started creating curriculum for permaculture, because there was no kids curriculum, and that's all I did was create kids curriculum. So yeah, no, that's the move. That is the move. They want to have computers be the monitor system, and to move to like a homeschooling kind of model, but gameplay. So like Khan Academy kind of style math, English like the SATs, except set up like a perpetual forever SAT of multiple choice questions.
And it's hellish. It's absolutely hellish. And the idea is that, and I got offered a job in that as soon as I retired from public ed, and they offered me a job where basically I'd be monitoring many classes, teaching thousands of students at once, and there'd be minions who are untrained, like they're just like paraprofessionals that would monitor the students like prison guards. And yeah, they're talking about doing that, but do you really think that that's going to happen? Do you really think people are already flipping out. Traditionally, when public school began, they had to arrest parents because parents were resisting and fighting them to prevent their kids going. It's natural to not want your kids to be taken into an institution where they're jailed for many years. Even the colleges are admitting like more and more homeschoolers, especially at the top end. So they have a crisis on their hands. They have to make non-compulsory education the norm, and they have to be Pied Pipers. And people like John Carripo, he's getting called to go to Washington to talk to the, Obama administration. And that's the kind of stuff he talks. And that's the kind of stuff that he taught me when I was one of his teachers, and he's my administrator. So there's a lot of things on the table right now. And, I'm not an Obama fan or anything, but I'm just saying, like, things are floating around that are solution-based. John Taylor Gatto was given to me, Dumbing Us Down, the book about the real history of education. Mm-hmm. It was given to me before I was allowed to become a teacher and teach in the classroom by John Carripo. So he's a radical teacher, and he's also a rock star teacher. And we're going to see a TED Talk from him any day, I'm sure.
I want to think.
But yeah, no, there's definite trends going on, but I think that if you look further into it, there's lots of incredible positive things that are there readily available, and it's almost as if those negative, awful things are there to give us an opportunity to choose the right thing.
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you for going into detail and answering Al's questions. His phone unfortunately died, but he told me to thank you for doing that. And somebody else just called in. Who do we have on the line?
Y'all need to start talking about the Jewish Illuminati to run everything on the planet.
Wait, what?
The bankers, they run the media, the Jewish Illuminati.
Oh, that's...
The banksters, all the politicians, they control it all. Morgan Freeman.
All right. What's your name? Hello?
Morgan Redmond.
Morgan Redmond. Well, so that's your perspective. Did you hear our show tonight with Matt? We talked about permaculture, by chance?
I did.
Yeah, so like that kind of perspective of like the critical analysis with deconstructionism, blame, judgment, structures tends to only lead to combative structures and solutions. So we can identify, we can give names, we can create blame and all those kind of structures, but those actually don't give us solutions to anything.
Right.
That only creates more problems and more judgment. So I actually don't come from a place where I judge people. I try to work with everyone where they're at and try to show them a better way and solutions that both work for them and work for the planet and other people. So what I would say is permaculture is a way to take equity back into your own family, your own community, and not allowing, the reality is banks and government, all these different things, we've given them our freedom by buying their products, by, voting a certain way consistently, by watching TV, by, letting them sort our children and grade them, and then filter them. We've given them all of our freedoms, and we just need to take them back, and it all starts with independence. So regardless of who we're talking about, what we're talking about, everything goes back to being responsible for ourselves, and then our families, and then our communities, and building up from there. So if we are doing our own food, even half of our own food, we're changing the dynamic of our budget, of our neighborhood, of our relationships with everyone around us. Because they're going to see us making our food. They're going to see us eating our food. They're going to be blown away by what we're doing. So there's just a chain reaction that starts that I know is real. I've seen and I've witnessed. When you get past judgment, when you get past blame, and you get to solutions, there's a liberation that comes, a weight that is dropped, and you are free, and you can run faster than you could ever believe. And it is through growing food, through working with people, through having things that you can share with such an open heart without feeling like you're losing anything. When we give food that we grew, when we give, these are all expressions of love. And when we build our lives around patterns and expressions of love through our community and our family, we create rich culture, life, and heritage. And those are like the missing ingredients that, trust in our society doesn't have right now. And we can bring those back, but it all starts with us. And that's what permaculture really is asking us all to do. The primary directive of permaculture is to take responsibility for ourselves and our children now. And I'm paraphrasing. And we're supposed to create, sustainable living systems for ourselves and stop mining the planet like we talked about,
Right.
So does that make sense, sir, from my perspective?
He left our conversation, unfortunately, but hopefully he's still.
He just wanted. I think he wanted to talk to a certain way, but.
And that's okay. We honor everyone's perspective here, and I think that your response was well said, Matt, and thank you for sharing your perspective too. And hopefully, sir, you found power in that statement, because it's Matt's speaking the truth there. You can take responsibility for your health and essentially your wealth, because health equals wealth in my book, and do your own thing, grow your own food. You can do it. And we caught up with you this evening, Matt. It seems like there's never enough time. Thank you for writing The Permaculture Student 2. People can find out about that on Kickstarter. You're on day 4 of Kickstarter, so we need people to go there and support you, because what you're doing is amazing. I want to check back with you in sooner than 6 months. I think we should talk within a few weeks, if not sooner.
Sure.
And just to see how our things are going. I'm working my way through Permaculture Student 1. I love it. Like I said, personally, I need more land. I need to grow forests. I want to turn the planet into a forest. And you've got so many amazing things that you're working on. Your family's wonderful people, and thank you for teaching your kids so many great things and sharing with us your energy so that we may teach our kids great things.
Well, thank you so much for having me and giving me a place to share and have the ability to do those things, because for me, I get empowered by empowering other people and
Woo!
seeing that bright light in children and young people's eyes when they realize that they can be positive forces.
So much truth, Matt. Thank you, Mr. Powers.
I'ma let 'em know,
Thank you, guys.
stereo. Yo,
Thank
here
you.
we go.